She was she was born because I had to be induced. My blood pressure was 154 over 94, and at that point, my doctor didn't want to chance it. She didn't want me to run the risk of developing preeclampsia or toxemia or anything like that. So she went ahead and scheduled me for an induction January 23rd, but I couldn't get a room because there was a storm, and as most of you know, they say whenever there's a storm, babies are born. So almost every single room, well, not almost, but every single room was booked in labor and delivery because of women whose water broke, or they were already in the hospital and they needed like an emergency C-section, or different things going on. But then there was also a mix-up because they thought I was having an elective induction, and they didn't realize that my induction was due to gestational hypertension. So once one of the nurses, I guess, looked over my chart and saw that, she called me and said, hey, come in, we're saving a room for you. We apologize for the misunderstanding, because I actually went there to, see if I can be induced, and they're like, we don't have any rooms, and blah, blah, blah. So I was calling, and yeah, it was a lot. And my mom flew in from California, and she was only staying for a couple of days. So it would have been horrible if, they started my induction after she had already left, or, like the last day she was there or something like that. So it worked out great. My induction took place the day after she got here. So my mom was able to be there. I got to the hospital, I want to say at 11 in the morning, or like early afternoon, 12. And they started my Pitocin at 3. At 3 p.m. they started my Pitocin. When I got to the hospital, I was already 4 centimeters dilated, 100% effaced, and baby's head was at -1. I'm pretty sure if you're watching this vlog, you're either pregnant or you've already had children, so you might know what I'm talking about. But for those who don't, 100% effaced means my cervix was pretty much ready. Well, it was soft enough, and it was, showing signs that, my body is ready to deliver. And her head being at -1 meant that she was low and she was down there. We just were waiting for my cervix, of course, to open up to 10 centimeters. But I was at 4. So, yeah. And then there was another thing. So I knew that I was already 4 centimeters dilated because when I had my doctor's appointment on the 22nd, my doctor, of course, checked my cervix, and I was 4 centimeters -1 and 90%. And then when I went to, when I was starting my induction, a nurse checked me, and she told me that I was 6 centimeters dilated. So, because she told me that, once they started, my Pitocin and the contractions started coming on, they weren't coming on strong, but, I, was cramping more frequently. I decided to go ahead and get an epidural before it was too late, because she said I was 6 centimeters dilated, and I know most doctors aren't really comfortable giving an epidural once you're at 7 or 8 centimeters. So I was like, okay, let me go ahead and get this epidural. I didn't get the epidural though until maybe about 5 o'clock. And yeah, at 5 o'clock they gave me my epidural, which was horrible. I cried and I jumped, which I know is bad, but it hurt. Number one, I'm afraid of needles. And I know that needle is huge. So I cried and I jumped, and yeah, so after that, my doctor checked me around 6, and she said, you're only 4 centimeters dilated. So I kind of felt a little bamboozled, because I felt like if I was 4 that entire time, I could have waited to get the epidural, just so that I can experience more since it was my first pregnancy and my first labor and delivery, just kind of experienced more of the feeling of being in active labor. So yeah, so my doctor checked me, and they also turned off my Pitocin at one point. They turned off my Pitocin when I was getting my epidural, because I wasn't on the monitors, and they said when you're on Pitocin, you need to be monitored constantly. So yeah, they turned the Pitocin off, and it was off for about an hour. So of course my contractions died down, and then they turned it back on. And this was, of course, after my doctor checked me, that they turned the Pitocin back on. So the Pitocin was off for about an hour. My doctor checked me like around 6, and yeah, and so she said, okay, well, baby may not come tonight. This might, be like an overnight thing, blah, blah, blah. So get some rest and, just relax. So she said that, and, I'm, can't really do anything, can't really feel my legs, which I didn't like that feeling at all, of not being able to feel my legs. So, I was just kind of relaxing. I decided that I did want to take a nap. I was laying on my left side, and I had been, if you've had an epidural, you kind of have to flip-flop sides so that the medicine doesn't wear off on one side. So I was laying on my left side for more than 30 minutes, and I guess all of what the nurse told me is all of the medicine went to my left side. So my left side is completely numb. My right side, I started feeling contractions, and they were frequent and they were strong, but it wasn't too bad. And my wonderful husband was able to kind of coach me through it until the nurse was able to come back and flip me, and then they also gave me a boost of my epidural. Once they gave me the boost, yeah, so it was around, I want to say it was around 8 o'clock, or no, it was about, yeah, so it was probably like 8:30 when the epidural wore off on my right side. I got flipped and all that kind of stuff, and then the nurse was saying, once you feel pressure, blah, 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 you'll feel like you have to go poop. Sorry, TMI. You'll feel like you have to go poop, or, things like that. Those are signs that, the baby's ready. And so the entire time, I'm not really feeling pressure. I'm not really feeling like I have to poop. Well, I guess I was feeling pressure, but it wasn't, like I have to go poop. It was more up front. It wasn't really towards the back. So, in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's probably not what she's talking about. It's probably because of the epidural and me not being able to feel my legs. I feel weird down there. And so I had that feeling for a couple minutes, or probably like 15-20 minutes. I was still kind of feeling that feeling. So I kind of told my husband to kind of help me hold one of my legs up because I'm on my side. And so I was talking to my mom, and I was telling my mom what I'm feeling, and she was like, well, do you feel like you have to go poop? And I was like, no, it doesn't feel like that. And so she's like, well, maybe we should have the nurse come back and check you. So the nurse came back to check me, and she said, I have good news and I have bad news. What do you want first? And of course, you don't tell a pregnant woman who's in active, labor that she has bad news. So I'm thinking she's telling me that there's like a foot hanging out, or something like the baby's breech and I needed an emergency C-section. I'm thinking the worst. And so I'm like, okay, I want the bad news first. And she said, you shouldn't have took a nap when we told you. And she said the good news is you're ready to deliver your baby. So because my doctor wasn't there, they had me what is it called? I can't remember what the term of it was, but they basically kind of just let gravity help bring the baby down. So they propped me up on the bed, like all the way up, kind of to the point where, not that I would slide off the bed, but I was propped that high up just so that gravity could kind of help pull the baby down. And my doctor got there. Everything was, set up already by the time she got there. So when she got there, they were like, okay, start pushing. I started pushing. I pushed for about 8 minutes, and Nyla was born. She was 8 pounds, 8.2 ounces, 19 inches long. Baby girl. Stay.
Nyla Rose. Nyla.
And she was born at 11:52 p.m. So from the start of my Pitocin until the end, or until Nyla was born, was was 8, almost 9 hours. So I was only in labor for 9 hours, and it was really enjoyable, minus, maybe about 30-45 minutes when I felt my contractions. I had no tears. I had like what they call a skid mark, which required like one little stitch. And yeah, she was here. Sorry. And one of the biggest things was Dad got to help deliver her. My husband, he got to help pull her out. And so, I was really happy he got to experience that, and he wanted to be so hands-on because, it's a special moment that he got to be a part of, or got to experience as well. So after they cleaned her up, because I guess while I was pushing, her heart rate went down, so they didn't put her directly on my chest. They took her over to, the warmer, made sure she was okay, checked her heart and all that kind of stuff. And then, after they wrapped her up, they brought her back to me. Yeah, that was my pregnancy, my labor and delivery. Now she will be, I believe we said it in the introductory video, but she will be 4 months on Sunday. And so I will do an update after she has her doctor's appointment. We normally try to do her doctor's appointment on the day, like on the exact day where, she hit a new month. But this one is 3 days after. So I will do an update after her doctor's appointment, just to kind of say where she is in her development and all that kind of stuff. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any comments or any questions, put them in the comments below, and I'll try to answer it on her 4-month update vlog, or I can answer you in the comments. And then hopefully you guys will be able to see my husband in later vlogs. He does have a really hectic schedule, so right now it might just be me, Nyla, and the dogs. Yeah, so that's it. I'll talk to you guys later. Modern Day Family out.